whereas the US had awesome fuel, and that provided that to Britain as well. So that allowed the British and the Americans to design aircraft engines that were super high performance, better than anything else in the world. Germany could design the engines; they just didn't have the fuel, and then also the quality of the aluminum alloys that they were getting was also not that great, and so
Is this like you talked about all this with Dan?
Yep.
Awesome. Broadly looking at history, when you look at Genghis Khan, when you look at Stalin, Hitler, the darkest moments of human history, what do you take away from those moments? Does it help you gain insight about human nature, about human behavior today? Whether it's the wars or the individuals or just the behavior of people, any aspects of history?
Yeah, I find history fascinating. There's just a lot of incredible things that have been done, good and bad, that they help you understand the nature of civilization and individuals. And
does it make you sad that humans do these kinds of things to each other? You look at the 20th century, World War II, the cruelty, the abuse of power. Talk about communism, Marxism, and Stalin.
Some of these things do. If you like, there's a lot of human history. Most of it is actually people just getting on with their lives. And it's not like human history is just nonstop war and disaster. Those are actually just those are intermittent and rare. And if they weren't, then humans would soon cease to exist. But it's just that wars tend to be written about a lot, and whereas like something being like, well, a normal year where nothing major happened doesn't get written about much. But that's most people just like farming and kind of like living their life, being a villager somewhere. And every now and again there's a war, and I think so. And I would have to say, like, there aren't very many books that where I just had to stop reading because it was just too dark. But the book about Stalin, The Court of the Red Tsar, I had to stop reading. It was just too dark, rough.
Yeah. The 30s. There's a lot of lessons there to me, in particular that it feels like humans, like all of us have that. It's the old Solzhenitsyn line, that the line between good and evil runs through the heart of every man, that all of us are capable of evil, all of us are capable of good. It's almost like this kind of responsibility that all of us have to tend towards the good. And so, like, to me, looking at history is almost like an example of, look, you have some charismatic leader that convinces you of things. It's too easy based on that story to do evil onto each other, onto your family, onto others. And so it's like our responsibility to do good. It's not like now is somehow different from history. That can happen again. All of it can happen again. And yes, most of the time, you're right. I mean, the optimistic view here is mostly people are just living life. And as you've often memed about, the quality of life was way worse back in the day, and it keeps improving over time through innovation, through technology. But still, it's somehow notable that these blimps of atrocities happen.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, life was really tough for most of history. Really for most of human history, a good year would be one where not that many people in your village died of the plague, starvation, freezing to death, or being killed by a neighboring village. It's like, well, it wasn't that bad. It was only like, we lost 5% this year. That was, it was a good year. That would be par for the course.
Yeah.
Like just not starving to death would have been like the primary goal of most people throughout history. Just making sure we'll have enough food to last through the winter and not freeze or whatever. So, Now food is plentiful. I have an obesity problem, so.
Well, yeah, the lesson there is to be grateful for the way things are now for some of us. We've spoken about this offline. I'd love to get your thought about it here. If I sat down for a long-form in-person conversation with the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, would you potentially want to call in for a few minutes to join in on a conversation with him, moderated and translated by me?
Sure, yeah. Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
You've shown interest in the Russian language. Is this grounded in your interest in history of linguistics, culture, general curiosity?
I think it sounds cool.
Sounds cool, not looks cool. So,
well, it takes a moment to read Cyrillic. Once you know what the Cyrillic characters stand for, actually, then reading Russian becomes a lot easier because there are a lot of words that are actually the same. Like bank is bank. Mm-hmm.
So find the words that are exactly the same, and now you start to understand Cyrillic. Yeah.
If you can sound it out, then it's much. There's at least some commonality of words.
What about the culture? You love great engineering, physics. There's a tradition of the sciences there.
Sure.
So you look at the 20th century from rocketry. So, some of the greatest rockets, some of the space exploration has been done in the former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So do you draw inspiration from that history? Just how this culture that in many ways, one of the sad things is because of the language, a lot of it is lost to history because it's not translated, all those kinds of, because it is in some ways an isolated culture. It flourishes within its borders.
Yeah.
So do you draw inspiration from those folks from the history of science and engineering there?
The Soviet Union, Russia, and Ukraine as well, and have a really strong history in spaceflight. Like some of the most advanced and impressive things in history were done, by the Soviet Union. One cannot help but admire the impressive rocket technology that was developed. After the sort of fall of the Soviet Union, there's much less that happened. But still things are happening, but it's not quite at the frenetic pace that was happening before the Soviet Union kind of dissolved into separate republics.
Yeah, there's Roscosmos, the Russian agency. I look forward to a time when those countries with China are working together. The United States are all working together. Maybe a little bit of friendly competition, but
I think friendly competition is good. Governments are slow, and the only thing slower than one government is a collection of governments. So,
yeah,
the Olympics would be boring if everyone just crossed the finishing line at the same time.
Yeah,
nobody would watch.
Yeah,
and people wouldn't try hard to run fast and stuff. So I think friendly competition is a good thing.
This is also a good place to give a shout out to a video titled "The Entire Soviet Rocket Engine Family Tree" by Tim Dodd, aka Everyday Astronaut. It's like an hour and a half. It gives the full history of Soviet rockets. Mm-hmm. And people should definitely go check out and support Tim in general. That guy is super excited about the future, super excited about spaceflight. Every time I see anything by him, I just have a stupid smile on my face because he's so excited about stuff.
Yeah,
I love people like
Tim
that.
Dodd is really great. If you're interested in anything to do with space, he's, in terms of explaining rocket technology to your average person, he's awesome. The best, I'd say. And I should say, part of the reason, I switched us from, Raptor at one point was going to be a hydrogen engine, but hydrogen has a lot of challenges. It's very low density. It's a deep cryogen, so it's only liquid at a very close to absolute zero. It requires a lot of insulation. It's so there's a lot of challenges there. And I was actually reading a bit about Russian rocket engine development, and at least the impression I had was that or Soviet Union, Russia, and Ukraine primarily, were actually in the process of switching to methalox. And there was some interesting test stand data for ISP. Like they were able to get like up to like a 380 second ISP with the methalox engine. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's actually really impressive. So, I think you could actually get a much lower cost, like in optimizing cost per ton to orbit, cost per ton to Mars. I think methane oxygen is the way to go. And I was partly inspired by the Russian work on the test stands with methalox engines.
And now for something completely different. Do you mind doing a bit of a meme review in the spirit of the great, the powerful PewDiePie? Let's say 1 to 11. Just go over a few documents, print it out.
We can try.
Let's try this. I present to you document numero uno.
I don't know. Okay.
Vlad the Impaler discovers marshmallows.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So, you get it? Because he likes impaling things?
Yes, I get it. I don't know, 3, whatever.
Oh, that's not very good. This is grounded in some engineering, some history.
Yeah, give us an 8 out of 10.
What do you think about nuclear power?
I'm in favor of nuclear power. I think it's in a place that is not subject to extreme natural disasters. I think it's nuclear power is a great way to generate electricity. I don't think we should be shutting down nuclear power stations.
Yeah, but what about Chernobyl?
Exactly. So I think people, there's like a lot of fear of radiation and stuff, and it's I guess the problem is like a lot of people just don't understand. They didn't study engineering or physics, so they don't. It's just the word radiation just sounds scary, you know. So they can't calibrate what radiation means. But radiation is much less dangerous than you'd think. Like for example, Fukushima. You know, when the Fukushima problem happened due to the tsunami, I got people in California asking me if they should worry about radiation from Fukushima, and I'm like, definitely not. Not even slightly. Not at all. That is crazy. And just to show, like, look, this is how, like, the danger is so much overplayed compared to what it really is, that I actually flew to Fukushima, and I donated a solar power system for a water treatment plant, and I made a point of eating locally grown vegetables on TV in Fukushima. Like, I'm still alive. Okay.
So it's not even that the risk of these events is low, but the impact of them is
the impact is greatly exaggerated. It's just
human nature.
It's people don't know what radiation is. Like, I've had people ask me, like, what about radiation from cell phones causing brain cancer? I'm like, when you say radiation, do you mean photons or particles? Then, like, that I don't know what do you mean photons, particles? Do you mean let's say photons? What frequency or wavelength? And they're like, no, I have no idea. Like, do you know that everything's radiating all the time? Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, everything's radiating all the time. Photons are being emitted by all objects all the time, basically. So, and if you want to know what what it means to stand in front of nuclear fire, go outside. The sun is a gigantic, thermonuclear reactor. You're staring right at it. Yeah. Are you still alive? Yes. Okay, amazing.
Yeah, I guess radiation is one of the words that could be used as a tool to fearmonger. by certain people. That's it. And
I think people just don't understand. So
I mean, that's the way to fight that fear, I suppose, is to understand, is to learn.
yeah, just say like, okay, how many people have actually died from nuclear accidents? It's like practically nothing. And say how many people have died from, coal plants, and it's a very big number.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, obviously we should not be starting up coal plants and shutting down nuclear plants. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Coal plants, like, I don't know, 100 to 1,000 times worse for health than nuclear power plants.
You want to go to the next one? It's really bad. It's that 90, 180, and 360 degrees. Everybody loves the math. Nobody gives a shit about 270.
It's not super funny.
Yeah,
I don't know, like 203.
Yeah.
This is not, LOL situation.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
The United States oscillating between establishing and destroying dictatorships. It's like a metro. Is that a metro?
Yeah,
What is
metronome.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know, 7 out of 10. It's kind of true.
Oh yeah, this is kind of personal for me. Next one.
Oh man, this is Leica?
Yeah. Well, no, this is,
Or it's like referring to Leica or something?
as Leica's husband.
Husband. Yeah.
Hello, yes, this is Dog. Your wife was launched into space. And then the last one is him with his eyes closed and a bottle of vodka.
Yeah, Leica didn't come back.
No. They don't tell you the full story of, what the impact they had on the loved ones.
True.
That one gets an 11 for me. Just
Sure.
for the Soviet
Let's get
shout-out. Oh yeah, this keeps going on the Russian theme. First man in space, nobody cares. First man on the moon.
Well, I think people do care.
No, I know, but there is
Yuri Gagarin's names will be forever in history, I think.
there is something special about placing, like, stepping foot onto another totally foreign land. It's not the journey like people that explore the oceans. It's not as important to explore the oceans as to land on a whole new continent.
Yeah.
Oh, this is about you. Oh yeah, I'd love to get your comment on this. Elon Musk, after sending $6.6 billion to the UN to end world hunger, you have 3 hours.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously $6 billion is not going to end world hunger. So, I mean, the reality is at this point, the world is producing far more food than it can really consume. Like, we don't have a caloric constraint at this point. So where there is hunger, it is almost always due to it's like civil war or strife or some it's not a thing that is it's extremely rare for it to be just a matter of lack of money. It's like, it's like there's a civil war in some country and like one part of the country is literally trying to starve the other part of the country.
So it's much more complex than something that might